This video will explain how you will be able to see your grades and like what you've done, what grades you've gotten on things, where you stand in the class in terms of completing, how many things you've completed. So one way you could figure this out would be by going to the Accessing Graded Assignments and like looking at the whole list. So you could look at what's been graded, which in this view, in the instructor's view, there's nothing there. But, you will have a whole bunch of things that have been graded and it'll give your grade for it. But given how many different things there are in the class, that's going to be a really terrible way to try to figure things out. So to streamline that, I will be making Google Doc spreadsheets for each of you. And so what you'll do is you'll go to this link that says My Gradebook. And what you'll see here is, so everyone will see the sample gradebook. And this is all that's there right now. At the end of the add drop period, I will be adding an individual one for each of you. And the only people that will be able to see that will be me and you. So I will be able to see all of the grade books that will be just on this page. But when you go, what you'll see is the sample grade book, which is accessible to everyone in the class, provided you have to be logged into your Bmail in the same browser. And then it will also contain a link to your gradebook, which you will also have to be logged into Bmail in the same browser. So I will share it with your Bmail address. If you want me to share it with, like, say, your personal Gmail account or some other personal account that maybe you use in that browser that you use Blackboard in, or if you just want to be able to access it from both addresses, I'm happy to do that. Just send me a request to share it with a different email address and just let me know that it's you and you really are making this request, because I won't share it with just like some random person or what appears to be some random person. So identify it as you in your request, particularly if your email address is not one that is, identifiable as you, because I want to preserve the sanctity of your grades. But so this sample gradebook will give you an idea of what your gradebook will look like once it's all filled in. It won't look like this to begin with. So there are codes. So things that you've gotten a mastery on will be given an M. And then there's a 1 under it just for sort of counting purposes. Things that you get a progressing on will have a P. And if you get a novice on something, then that will be an N. Okay. The other code is that core guided practices, learning modules, or timed assessments will be marked with a star in the gradebook. So you see some of these have a star after them, whereas others, like say guided practice 4.4, which is not a core guided practice, does not have a star after. So if you want to make sure that you've done all the core things, you look for the star. So I'll be keeping track of your attendance. So you'll get a 1 for every day you're there, a 0 if you're not there. And if you have an excused absence, I'll mark it with an E. And then I will fill in as an excused absence here. And so this will just kind of tell you. And I'm not going to fill in the sufficient for a grade of until we get sort of later in the course. So don't worry that that's not filled in, because that would just look discouraging in the beginning. Or it would just be complicated. So I just do that at the end. So this is what a gradebook looks like at the end when it's all filled out. And then there's a row for the concept checks and a row for the guided practices. So, it's a very long row, but you just scroll along and you can see everything. And down here it tells you how many core guided practices you've mastered, how many non-core, and then the total. And Likewise. Now, here's a thing that I will be doing, not right away, but I'll do it sort of as we get towards the end of the class. I'm going to go through everybody's gradebook, and I'm going to mark the core things that you don't have mastery on yet with a P, or with pink. To sort of let you know that you might want to go back and fill those in, particularly if you don't have progressing on them. So actually, maybe I will just do it when you have a novice. That would actually probably be better, because that's more informative. Because other than that, progressing is fine in terms of getting the grade as long as you have the number needed total. So whether you have mastered core or non-core doesn't matter for the grade, as long as you have at least progressing on all of the. Actually, you know what? I am going to mark them pink, just because that's actually going to make my life easier. I've decided that's what I am going to do, because I have to look through the grade book at the end and at least check to see whether you've gotten progressing on all of the core modules. So I want them to stand out for me, so I can just quickly look and say, okay, let's see. Oh, here's some non-core, here's some core ones that person hasn't mastered, but they have progressing. Okay. And there's nothing else, so there's no ones that are core that are marked novice. So when I go down here at the end, so this was for learning modules, I'm going to say, okay, well, they got 48. That's sufficient for a C. Did they have a grade of progressing on all the core learning modules? Yes. Okay, so they, in fact, get a C. So like, for example, here in the timed assessments, this fake person have mastered 50 timed assessments, which is a number sufficient for a C. However, they do not have progressing on all of their core timed assessments, so they get a D for the timed assessments. So it's really important to get at least progressing on all of your core timed assessments, or it can drag you down possibly quite a bit. So you don't want to have that happen to you. So make sure that you get at least progressing on all of the core material, because that's really important. So like, see this person, they're doing really well, but they had a novice on this one core timed assessment. So that gave them a D, as opposed to it would have been a C otherwise, and it was pretty close to a B. So just like one more would have put it up in the B range. So you also got to make sure you hit that threshold. So sometimes it's worth it to make that just one little extra push and see if you can push it to the next level. And then there's a row for the natural argument projects, how many you've mastered. And then at the bottom, so this will be a running total. I won't necessarily fill in the sufficient for the grade of and the numbers. I'll probably do that towards the end. Or maybe when you've achieved, like if you've achieved sufficient for an A, I'll put it in even if it's not towards the end, just because that's exciting. But so then this will add it all up for you and give you your final grade at the end. So you'll be able to see where you are in the course at pretty much any time. And I think that will make it much easier for you to keep track of what you've done and where you're at. And that's really important in this class, because there's a lot of stuff to keep track of. So I try to make it as easy as possible for both you and me to know where you're at.